So my name is Maddison. My daughter's name is Eleanor, and she is currently 4 years old. She had her first seizure at 6 weeks old, and right before her second birthday, she was diagnosed with GLUT1 deficiency syndrome. I kind of made it my mission, especially once the Modified Atkins started and it was a little less strict on the specific ratios. I made it my mission to find products and make foods that looked like everyone else's. So we'd go to Thanksgiving and she would eat basically what everybody else had. It would just be like a different form, or we would have spaghetti, but it was spaghetti squash for dinner, like just whatever we could to try to make it somewhat normal. I would say just making foods look like either normal or fun, especially for kids. That was the easiest thing for me to do to get her to want to eat things. So like we went to Disneyland and I got like Chalk Zero chocolate and I like melted it in little Mickey Mouse and like the different characters of like the chocolate mold. So she always had something that was very normal looking. Um, Whether or not it was actually like a normal food, she always thought it was. But I feel like a big tip that I've had, and I know some people have had kind of different mixed reviews on Chalk Zero. But Chalk Zero's Halloween candy, like Halloween, I don't know why Halloween was so important to me, and it was so sad to me that she didn't get to eat Halloween candy. And they have like all the little pumpkins and ghosts and things like that, the different candies. And so that was really fun. Her second Halloween on the diet, we were able to find those, and so she was able to eat her like Halloween candy and she loved it and thought it was super exciting to get to have her own Halloween candy. So just finding foods that are fun and making shapes out of cheese. Just doing silly things like cookie cutters, and I have like way too many things that make shapes. But for kids that's a game changer. So whenever before she went to the hospital, I was terrified that I would accidentally give her something that she shouldn't have, and I didn't know what she could have and what she couldn't have. Like, they gave me a list of things, but I bought like all new bath supplies, all new like everything, just any product I could that they told me to get, I just got it. And I remember that the day before she went into the hospital, I cleaned out all of the cabinets with food. Like I gave food away and I filled it with only keto stuff. Everything was something that she could eat. Um, but over time, I did learn that it doesn't have to always be all or nothing, and there are ways with Modified Atkins to fit normal foods in, quote unquote normal, but normal foods in with keto foods, and they kind of just mesh together. But I had cookbooks and Pinterest boards and like everything you could imagine. But I think at first I went too hard with it. Like I wanted to make it fun and I'd make her cookies and I try to do everything from scratch. And over time I found companies and products, like Chalk Zero was a huge one for us. But companies and products that really were able to bring that normalcy in to where she could have normal food. She could have like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but we just had to make it fit into her diet. So I did eventually reintroduce foods back into my home that weren't just like coconut flour or almond flour, but that was definitely a challenge to try to make sure that I just didn't know what to expect, I guess. We kind of became the weirdos that like brought our own food. So we would like bring like low carb tortillas, like Mexican restaurants and stuff we would go to and like let her like load up a low carb tortilla with cheese, or get fajitas and like let her eat the chicken, things like that. And then pretty much any other restaurant, she kind of became so accustomed to like grilled chicken or shrimp or butter that those became her favorite foods. And it's so funny because whenever she stopped being on the diet, she actually still won't eat regular chicken nuggets. She like loves all the same foods. And so it kind of just, it was a perfect timing thing at 2 that they just kind of became her childhood foods. So that was nice. But at restaurants, I mean, she still orders all the same things we used to order her. So it kind of works out. I think I would share that life can look so normal, and that I think that it's easy to feel isolated and it's easy to feel very alone in the journey, but everyone kind of has their own little thing going on, whether it's another disorder or it's seizures or they're on a modified diet. Um, and even though you feel so alone in the rareness of your life, it doesn't actually make you alone. And I feel like I didn't realize how big of a community there was in the GLUT1 community and how worldwide it was. But those people have become like family. So in the ways that I can't relate to my own family, I've found like a mom figure through Glenna, the director of the foundation, and I found friends and like sisters and other moms that have really been able to kind of guide me forward, and they're able to relate to everything that's going on in my life too. So I feel like at the very beginning, if I would have just had somebody tell me that I wasn't in this bubble, I wasn't just completely alone, it would have been really a lot less detrimental to my mental health for sure. I did a book club with the foundation. And so it was just for like parents to do like a book club. I don't know. We just talked and it was nice. But just such big connections that I made just like by talking to people and realizing that their story was the same as mine. And I've become like my own little research doctor. I don't know how, but like trying to find the different things, like different treatment plans and different doctors and like what they're saying about this, and they're working on mice, and a world that I like didn't even look into before this happened. And now I like read every research study as if I like know what I'm talking about. I think that over the year that Eleanor was hospitalized all the time, and we just kind of kept finding ourselves back in the same place. And every time you'd get out and you'd think that everything was good, and they'd up our medicine of periactin, and you'd kind of realize that things were going to be better. Like everything was going to be better now. We're back home. The excitement of being back home was huge. And every time we had to go back, I think was the hardest part. It's like reliving that trauma over and over and over again, where you're just laying there in the hospital room after the ER and they've poked your child a million times and they've shoved tubes down her nose and you can hear the feeding pump and the IV pump and all of that. I think realizing that you're never going to get away from that, and that that's always going to be a recurring thing in your life, is the hardest part. Whenever I think it's, for some reason, the hardest part to me was never the doing it. I can always get it done. Like if you're in the ER and it's hectic and it's crazy and you're having to like hold your child down for them to, do whatever they need to do, it's hard, but I can always get through it. But it's whenever everything stops and the adrenaline stops and the room is quiet and you can finally hear the noises of the hospital and it's dark and you're like laying next to your 2-year-old or 3-year-old and you just realize that you can't do anything to change it and that they're always going to experience that despite the fact that you want to fix it for them. You can't do anything and you're always going to end up back there. And now I know, in the beginning, whenever she was 6 weeks old, and I was like, okay, well, after this, the hard part's over. And then she was in the hospital again and again. And, now I don't even know how many hospitalizations she's had. And I look at my friends and their kids who have never been in the hospital or have been in the hospital like one time, or they get freaked out because their child has strep. And I'm just like, how is this my life? And how is this what happened to us? But I think now it's almost the acceptance of the fact that I know we're going to be back there again. I know we're going to have to go to the hospital again. And it's not a matter of if, it's always a when. But nothing prepares you for having to do it over and over. You'd think that you'd have like a go bag or a, backpack or like some sort of knowledge, but somehow I always end up in the ER with no food and my pajamas and like nothing with me. So there's no way to prepare for it, but there's at least a way to accept the fact that it's going to happen.